Hello all and welcome back to Broadside. Today we're diving back into Assassin's Creed 3 and we're talking about the Battle of Bunker Hill. We previously talked about the battles of Lexington and Concord. We're moving on to the next major conflict in that war that is portrayed in this game. Today we're going to talk about the redoubt and the landscape on Breed's Hill, how that's portrayed in the game and if that's accurate. Then, in another video, we're going to talk about how Charlestown factors into this battle and how it's portrayed in the game. And then in the final video, we'll summarize the entire battle and discuss Pitcairn and how the battle unfolds in real life and how it unfolds in the game.
This is not Bunker Hill.
Aye, it's Breeze. There's been some disagreement as to where we should...
Jumping right into it and stopping the mission right here. Breed's Hill versus Bunker Hill. This is like everyone's favorite fun fact when it comes to this battle is it wasn't actually fought on Bunker Hill, or at least the majority of it was not fought on Bunker Hill. It later, due to some confusion, becomes named that, but yes, the vast majority happened on Breed's Hill, which is actually a smaller hill to the, I guess it's southeast, if I'm trying to visualize the map. Let's bring it up. Bunker Hill in the Charlestown Peninsula is to the northwest, and it is the tallest hill in this area. Breed's Hill, much more forward, closer to Charlestown and to the south. That soldier remarking that there was some conflict on where to establish an encampment, that is dead on. The people in charge of establishing the Patriot encampment here order William Prescott to establish a fortification on Bunker Hill. This way, it's not an outright provocation of the British, who are located in Boston, who have retreated there since the battles of Lexington and Concord. And it is a great location where you can see pretty much everything that's going on. You have eyes on the Mystic River to the north. You have eyes on the Charles River to the south. You can reasonably expect to defend Cambridge, which is the headquarters of the revolutionary forces here. And you're not going to provoke the British in Boston because it's not overt. It's not too close. You can't really shell Boston from Bunker Hill. William Prescott and Israel Putnam decide on the day. Now, we don't know exactly which one made the call, but William Prescott is overall command of the forces here, so we'll give him credit. They decide to be more aggressive. They're going to take Breed's Hill, closer to Charlestown. They're going to set up a redoubt there, a fortification there. That way they can shell Boston, and it's more of an imposing position. This is an aggressive move that they see as taking the initiative in this conflict. They can shell Boston. They're closer to the British forces. This is an offensively defensive move, if that makes sense. So there was disagreement. The overall commander of the Continental Army, he was not aware that that is where William Prescott had decided to set up his forces until the day of the battle. So this is an aggressive stance by William Prescott, by Israel Putnam, to basically provoke the British into action.
These aren't moving, and any time we try to press them, we lose a dozen men. I think Putnam and the others plan to assemble artillery on these hills. A good shelling might make the Redcoats rethink their strategy.
And what of John Pitcairn?
That bastard's the cagiest of the bunch. He's appeared time to taunt us, or send regards by way of cannon fire. It's all right, though. He'll have what's coming to him soon enough.
And we can jump into the map here. This map aligns pretty accurately with the maps that we just saw. So they did a pretty good job showing Charlestown to the south. You have what the marker is hovering over right there is Breed's Hill to the north, and it's pretty close to the town. And then to the northeast, you got Moulton's Hill. That's going to be where the British end up landing and marching from. What's not really shown too much is Bunker Hill, but oddly enough, for this mission, Bunker Hill is borderline irrelevant. So we can move on from here. So we're about to meet General Israel Putnam, who was there at the day, spent more time moving between Bunker Hill and Cambridge than here. And by here I mean we're at Breeds Hill right now at the redoubt. We're gonna meet him, but yeah, we'll let him talk, and we'll end up walking around the area, and then we'll discuss, what we're seeing, and maybe a little bit more about Israel Putnam.
We should be building on Bunker Hill. Breeze is closer to the city, but it is also closer to their artillery.
Our orders came from men so divorced from the situation, we are compelled by reason to employ our own faculties to make a proper determination.
Word that I can understand even half that nonsense you just uttered.
What's not to understand? I'm trying to ensure our victory.
What would you know about victory? I killed a sea-wolf in her den armed with only a knife. I escaped the Kanawagha Indians who sought to burn me alive. And I was the sole survivor of a shipwreck during the Battle of Havana. So you will excuse me if I choose not to follow your advice.
That is an interesting conversation. I can't talk too much about Israel Putnam in this video because we'll say that for later, but I really hope this isn't true, but I believe who he's talking to would be the leader of the forces at Breeds Hill, which is William Prescott. Odd that they wouldn't name William Prescott here. He is a huge factor in this actual battle. He's an interesting historical figure. He plays a huge role here. I think that's really odd that they wouldn't name him. But he was the one who was in charge of setting up this redoubt. Oddly enough, it is true that Israel Putnam really wanted to lay the groundwork for a fortification on Bunker Hill. That's true. But he was definitely aggressive, and I think it's fair to say that the historical record would support me claiming that he would have been more than okay with the establishment of a fortification on Breeds Hill. It seems more likely that he was in agreement with William Prescott, and then he also said, well, now I need to support the forward troops who are on Breeds Hill by establishing a fortification on Bunker Hill. There ended up being conflict about that on getting the proper tools to dig an encampment, but I digress.
I rest my case. I'm going back to Bunker Hill. Good service, gentlemen.
General Putnam,
What?
I'm looking for John. I was told you would be able to help me find him.
He's tucked away inside that city with no reason to leave. As long as that ship continues its assault, we'll never flush him out.
But if the ship was silenced,
Oh, that poor John might be forced to get off his arse and come forward.
fly the flag to signal my success.
And I shall speak fondly of you at your funeral.
Okay, that is naval shelling, and that 100% happened. The British Navy did all they could to soften the redoubt on Breeds Hill on the day. They had numerous ships in the harbor that were capable of firing on the positions here. Some of the heavier ships couldn't get in close enough or couldn't angle their guns high enough, but we know for a fact that cannon fire landed on Breeds Hill because we have an account from someone from my hometown, Billerica. His name was Asa Pollard. He is recorded as the first casualty on Breeds Hill in the Battle of Bunker Hill when a cannonball ripped through his neck, removing his head from his body. We know that they were firing like crazy onto this position. What you're seeing there, that violence, 100% true. This is a really bloody battle, especially for the British, but for these farmers, these veterans of French and Indian War, these, rabble collection of men, things are going to get really serious really quickly, and that leads to a lot of desertion. What we can see of this redoubt, though, is relatively accurate to what we know it looked like. Some of the details, if I just look at some of my notes, they use pickaxes, shovels, fascines, cages of rocks to dig in and then create these long walls. They stretched about 130 feet or so that were surrounded by a ditch. It was completely surrounded on all sides, and it was accessed by a rear and east-facing sally port. So from what we see here in our quick little walkthrough or walk around, this looks, just about right. You got earthen constructions, you got empty barrels. Those were definitely used. And I think it's really important that you see, or you don't see, any kind of perfectly built positions for artillery. The engineer basically forgot. So when cannons were finally brought in, and there weren't that many, they basically had to blow their own holes in the redoubt to be able to fire on the British. Now, what we're seeing here, though, I just want to note, is horribly inaccurate. There is no reason why these soldiers should be wasting ammunition. If you do not see a British soldier, you are not firing. The ammunition, the powder shortage on the day is littered throughout the historical record. The colonial troops had basically nothing to work with. So firing at all is a big deal. So them just taking pop shots, it's definitely for just dramatic effect, make you feel like you're in the mission and in the game. But I just want to emphasize, wow, what a waste of ammunition, what a waste of powder. Please don't be doing that if you're there on the day. And they weren't, so that's not something you would see. Just taking a quick look over the redoubt here. The size seems about right. It'd be weird for them to have any sort of United States flag considering it didn't exist at the time. So that's a bit odd. But the fact that it's like an earthen mound with that seems like it's a bit cobbled together, that's great. That's basically what it should look like. This was built haphazardly overnight, really quickly by men who were exhausted by the time they finished. So I like the way that it's being shown here, and yeah, I'm just glad that they didn't try and make it something it's not, because I think it's pretty important to get those things right. Yeah, you can see it's it looks like basically a mud puddle almost with guns, which is, yeah, that sounds about right. The only other thing I'd like to mention is that yeah, in our future videos, we'll get more in depth on who John Pitcairn is, who Israel Putnam is, what happens to Charlestown, and yeah, what happens in the battle. But for now, thank you very much for watching. Leave a like if you liked the video, and yeah, check back in for another video of similar content.